As 2014 unspools, we'll be dipping in from time to time as voters go to the polls to send their latest message to Washington. There will be 13 party primaries this month, several of which will be a test of incumbency, liberal survivability, and Tea Party strength. This week in North Carolina, a bit of all of that will be on view as Republicans compete to challenge vulnerable Senate Democrat Kay Hagan. Chuck's been covering the goings-on in his home state. What would you say is going on in your home state, Chuck?
Well, I was there a few days last week, and Tuesday is the Republican primary for the nomination to run against Kay Hagan in the Senate race. It's a crowded primary, but there's really three prominent candidates. We saw Tom Tillis in video at the top of the show here. He is the establishment candidate. He's the Speaker of the State House. He's got the backing of the Chamber of Commerce and many other groups. There was a lot of thinking, Gwen, that he would be pushed really hard by a Tea Party candidate named Greg Brannon and a Christian right candidate named Mark Harris. It's possible they'll do well on Tuesday, but the thinking among a lot of people there is that these guys did not do what they needed to do. They didn't perform particularly well in the three debates that took place. They didn't get a lot of money. They just haven't generated much enthusiasm and attention. And I think one thing we've learned from this is for all the talk about Tea Party insurgencies, these things don't just happen by themselves. You have to have the right mix of candidate, money, issues.
Who's got the money and the issues?
Right now, Tom Tillis definitely has the money, although a lot of the money is being spent against Kay Hagan by outside groups, and we can talk about that more if you like. But Tillis has not just the money, but because he's Speaker of the House, he has the leadership. The governor has endorsed him. The other senator, Richard Burr, has endorsed him. So that, in a kind of low energy primary that this seems to be so far, that helps a lot.
Yeah, Chuck, it seems like for the longest time, Kay Hagan wasn't running against a Republican. She was running against Americans for Prosperity, this big conservative group that's running all these ads against her. It'll be kind of refreshing to have a real candidate to focus on. Is it clear that there isn't going to have to be a runoff? Does Tillis have it locked up, or do you think he's going to have to go another round? Because what's the rule? He has to get 40%?
40%, yeah. Right. So it's a little less than the 50% threshold. So the thinking earlier was that it probably would be a runoff. Now a lot of people are wondering, can Tillis avoid a runoff? If there is a runoff, it would be July 15th, a good ways away. That could be a problem for Tillis because in the interim, there's going to be a special session of the state legislature, which means he's, as Speaker of the House, will be very front and center. And he said he absolutely will not, step aside from his job as Speaker. And the legislature has been pretty controversial in North Carolina because the Republicans have taken control of the legislature as well as the governor's office, and they've really moved to a much more conservative agenda. That's one of the main issues that Kay Hagan wants to use. So it could be problematic, probably not fatal, if Tom Tillis doesn't, if he gets into a runoff. But he would have a lot of advantages in a runoff as well.
Mm-hmm. Chuck, we keep hearing either Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid or other Democrats try to really castigate Republicans for relying on outside money and trying to encourage voters to think of that as a suspicious sort of intrusion into the state. Talk about the outside money that's coming into North Carolina, and maybe the Koch brothers, Harry Reid's favorite mentioner.
Right, a group affiliated with the conservative billionaire brothers, the Koch brothers, has been spending a lot of money. More outside money thus far has been spent in this race than any other race in the state. Millions of dollars worth of TV ads attacking Kay Hagan, overwhelmingly on Obamacare, which, like all Democrats, of course, she supported Obamacare. And there have been some other groups as well. So she's just been getting pounded while the Republicans can sort of run their primary race. And it is interesting that it's not the Republican Party that's pounding her, and it's not a candidate who's doing it. And this really is we're seeing the fruits of the Citizens United case that basically let unlimited money, millions and millions of dollars, can go into these types of ads, and you don't have to disclose who's doing it. That's been a problem for Hagan. Her approval ratings are not very good now. She'll have a lot of work to do to try to improve that. But she has a lot of time.
Do you think the voters, I'm just curious, do you think the voters are paying attention to where the money comes from?
No, I think she's trying to get them to do that. I think it's a hard thing to do. Most people have no idea who the Koch brothers are, and it's hard to get them to care, I think. Right.